Today I wanted to get into boundaries. And that's something I wanted to talk about because it's such a long and never ending theme in my life. And it seems like it's constantly something that I run into a lot. And I know that a lot of people struggle with it just like I do, especially if you were a people pleaser most of your life, like I was. I've spent over half of my life that way, always just in constant fear that the people that I love and admire will leave or will not want to be in my life anymore if they know that I have a certain opinion or if I feel like I'm disappointing them or letting them down in any way. I wasn't able to be my most authentic self because I was always trying to cater to what I thought whatever audience or company I was keeping wanted at the time. And having that kind of mentality, that people pleasing mentality, creates somebody that doesn't have boundaries. It's more likely that they don't understand other people's boundaries if they don't have them for themselves. And if you're somebody that doesn't have any boundaries, it is more likely that you're easily taken advantage of. It's more likely that you have a hard time spotting red flags. You're more apt to be manipulated. You're more apt to be seen as vulnerable. Because people who are predatory, especially people who have a goal of finding vulnerable people, especially vulnerable women, they can spot it and they can smell that. And it's easy for them to recognize fairly quickly if this is somebody that is unsure of themselves, that lacks confidence, and that doesn't have boundaries. And it's also more likely that you're prone to do things out of guilt because I definitely was. That's something I still struggle with to this day. Every time I set a boundary, every time I say something that I'm feeling, if it's I view it as kind of hairy. If it's something that I disagree with and I feel uncomfortable voicing that to somebody, I'm like, "Oh, did I make you feel bad? Is that okay? I'm sorry." I'm very apologetic. I'm trying to work on not doing that. I'm trying to work on being that person that's like, "I feel this way. This is how I feel and I don't fucking feel sorry about it." But you know what? I might always be that person that just fucking feels bad, but you shouldn't. We should never feel bad for stating what makes us uncomfortable and what would make us more comfortable in any given situation. And like I said before earlier, like if you're somebody that doesn't have boundaries, it's harder for you to understand fully and to fully grasp someone else's, or it's hard for you to empathize and be like, well, why is this a big deal for you? This wouldn't be a big deal for me. It's hard for people who, a lack of a better phrase, like if you're just somebody that lets people walk all over you, then you're not going to understand when somebody is trying to place a boundary with you. And I mean, associating with other people who don't have a lot of boundaries, that's affected a lot of my relationships too, because I always feel like an asshole for one, for placing boundaries, like I said. I always feel guilty and I always feel bad. But especially if I'm having to repeat boundaries to you, no one likes to do it. I mean, most people don't like to do that shit even once. I've had to reposition people in my life and how I interact with them based on if they can understand my boundaries or not. I just feel like that's another reason why it's important for you to have your own boundaries so that you can coexist with other people and understand theirs.
My name is Adrienne and I'm a lonely clam. And if you stick around, you'll hear my friend slam. It's time to talk about being a woman and just what it's like to be a human millennial in general. Enjoy.
How do you know if you need boundaries and how do you make them? It takes a lot of analyzing yourself and critical thinking and knowing yourself. It takes a lot of being able to identify your own emotions. So for me, I know that I need to place a boundary with someone or something if it affects my energy levels, if it drains me, if, for example, there's a term that's pretty popular, energy vampires. I've had a lot of people in my life that just drained my energy, anxiousness, sense of dread, if my energy levels are being drained because of it. Or if it's pissing me off, if it's something that I just can't fucking shut up about. That's how I know I need to reposition somebody in my life, is if I am just so fucking irritated that I just can't fucking shut up about it. I know that not everybody operates that way, but that's how I personally have been able to tell that I need to take a step back and I need to figure out why this is bothering me and if there's any boundaries I need to have around my interactions with certain people. I've definitely been in positions where I've had to set boundaries at work with coworkers, especially when it's people that you're around all the time. At work, you kind of get this family dynamic if you're spending time with the same people every day. So, understanding boundaries around space, understanding boundaries around how you're talked to, catching an attitude. I've had to set boundaries at home, again, around my space for the most part. I've had to set boundaries in relationships around, like, hey, these things make me uncomfortable, or this is what I'm needing from you in order to feel like this relationship is a good one for me. And like I said earlier, you're gonna feel like an asshole most of the fucking time, especially if you're a people pleaser and if you feel guilty for placing those boundaries. It's normal to feel like an asshole. Just because you feel like a dick doesn't mean that you're wrong, and it doesn't mean don't set boundaries for yourself. It's just a part of the process. And something else is that setting boundaries can bring on loneliness because when you're resituating people, or if it gets to the point where you have to remove people, I've said it before, as an adult, it's hard to make friends. So it gets lonely setting those boundaries and having to have less people in your life because of it. I've always been kind of a lone wolf. I've always been okay with being isolated. I've always been like, I grieve my friends, but I understand the value of protecting my peace. I don't ever feel bad enough that I'm like, wow, boohoo, I don't want to be alone, so I'm just going to keep tolerating this behavior. I used to feel that way, but after so much time, you start to understand that, damn, like, I would rather be alone than have this constant fucking bullshit. So, my brother used to call me the sad, lonely sister because I've always just been kind of isolated and away from everyone because I'm just easily drained as a person, I think. And when he first said that to me, I was like, ouch. But it's kind of true. He was kind of joking around about it, but in a way, it's kind of true. And navigating that loneliness is learning to be okay in your own company and also being confident and comfortable enough to put yourself out there so that you can find people who are more aligned with your values. Because ideally, it would be nice if I don't know if this is unrealistic, but so far I've seen I don't think it is. It's ideal to become friends with somebody who is like-minded like you are and have kind of the same boundaries and common understanding as you do so that you're not having to place those boundaries at all. Because from what I've seen with the people that I've had to place a lot of boundaries with, it was the first telltale sign that we just weren't compatible. I feel like you just find people that kind of walk into step with and that just automatically understand you. I get that people aren't mind readers. I get that sometimes you have to say, hey, this is what I need from you and whatnot. But for the most part, I feel like you are most compatible with people who you don't have to constantly place boundaries with. And it's difficult when you're having to remove friends and or family, or having to take a step back, or having to see them less. It sucks. It's not ideal. And with family, just because they are your blood and just because they are your family doesn't mean that they are entitled to a place in your life. That's probably something I'm going to get more into in another episode, because I've had to place a lot of boundaries around one side of my family because I would feel constant dread. I would be guilt tripped by them, which sucks because I miss them. I jokingly refer to them as my fucked up family. I miss my fucked up family, but they still impact me in a negative way when I try and have a relationship with them when we're just vastly different people that we're not compatible. And it sucks because they're my family. It sucks not being compatible with your own family. But I have been manipulated and guilt tripped and taken advantage of for so long. I'll go into the ends of the earth to protect my own peace. And I do not care who I have to remove to do it. I do not care how sad it makes me. Now, in my personal romantic relationships, I'll admit it's 100% harder for me to do that whenever I'm attached to somebody in that way. But as far as friends and family, it's if you're disrupting my peace, you gotta go. Shit. So yeah, and I mean, never feel bad for creating your own space and protecting your own peace. It's your life, it's your time, and you should be able to spend it how you want and with who you want. Don't let guilt rule how you spend your time. Don't let it dictate who you spend your time with. Don't let it control you like that. I've told my friends before, they'll be like, oh, I told so and so that I would go to this, and now I'm just feeling really tired and drained. I had a hard week and I don't feel like it. Or functions that, I mean, and I've done it too. You say that you'll do something or you'll go somewhere, and then the time comes closer to and you're like, actually, I'm not feeling that. I always encourage my friends to fucking bail. I know that sounds whatever. Honestly, because I make them comfortable bailing, I get bailed on a lot. But I also know that I can bail if I need to. That's a part of being really good friends and feeling safe with your friends and feeling safe to express yourself is that you're able to be like, hey, I know that I said that I would do this, but I'm just really not feeling it. Can I make it up to you? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Even if it's last minute, does it suck? Is it inconvenient? Yes. But I just feel so strongly that you should never do anything that you don't have the energy for. If you can't show up 100%, I would rather you not show up at all and show up for yourself first. If your friends are good friends, they will understand that. If they talk shit behind your back, if you do that, then they are probably one of those people that I talked about earlier that don't have their own boundaries and don't understand that. Then you're not compatible anyways, and fuck them. So, what will you get in return for having boundaries and creating boundaries and respecting your own boundaries and keeping to them? You will get peace. You will get energy restored. You will find that you are more focused and motivated because you have more energy. You'll get more of your time back. You will also have a lot less drama. And when there's a lot less drama, you'll find that you have a lot more time and attention to focus on yourself. Because, little side note, that is all drama is. I've noticed that specifically in myself. That if there's a lot of drama in my friend group or a lot of drama and bullshit going on around me, I mean, everybody loves fucking gossip, okay? I'm not gonna fucking lie about that. So if I'm getting all invested in everybody else's bullshit, it is a great distraction from mine because I have my own bullshit that I need to be sorting through. And I've actually had people call me out on it before and being like, hey, that addiction to chaos, are you creating your own mess because you don't have anyone else's to be involved in, you know? So having less drama in your life creates a lot more space for you to do that self analyzation I talked about and giving you time to get to know yourself and sit with yourself and really look at yourself. So that was my short and sweet message about boundaries. In closing, I want to say protect your peace, protect your heart, protect your time. It's yours, and you are the only single person who is entitled to it. So if anyone hasn't told you, or even if they have, I am proud of you. Until next time.